Okay, here goes. My heart still thumps a bit thinking about it even now. It was Aunt Carol's 60th birthday. Mom had been planning this dinner for weeks. Not a huge party, just close family. Us, Uncle Ben and Aunt Carol, my cousins Liam, and Sarah. Our dining room isn't massive, but Mom had squeezed in an extra table leaf and laid out her best tablecloth, the one with the little embroidered flowers she only used for special occasions. The smell of her famous roast chicken filled the whole house, mixed with the sweet scent of the apple pie cooling on the counter. It was supposed to be nice. It was nice for a while. Please watch the full video. If you enjoy it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Lastly, don't forget to share the video with your family and friends. I'm a writer. Or, I'm trying to be. It's not exactly a career path that screams stable or sensible, especially not to my dad. Dad's an engineer. He designs bridges. Real, solid, dependable things. Things you can see and touch and rely on. My stories, my poems. They're just words on a page to him. Air. He's never really understood it, and mostly, we just didn't talk about it. Or, I didn't. He'd make little comments, jabs disguised as jokes, about me getting a real job, or stopping with the hobby. I'd usually just smile weakly and change the subject. So, dinner was going well. Liam was telling a funny story about his new puppy. Sarah was talking about her college classes, and even Dad was laughing. Mom was beaming, passing around, bowls of mashed potatoes and gravy. Aunt Carol was oohing and eyeing over her presents. It was normal, happy. Then Aunt Carol, bless her innocent heart, turned to me. "And what about you, love?" she asked, her eyes kind. "Still writing your wonderful stories? Anything exciting happening with that?" The air in the room didn't exactly freeze, but it definitely got a little thicker. I felt Dad's eyes on me. I tried for a bright smile. "Yeah, still plugging away, Aunt Carol. I actually finished a manuscript for a novel a few weeks ago. I've started sending it out to agents." "Oh, that's wonderful," she exclaimed, genuinely pleased. Mom gave me an encouraging nod, and that's when Dad decided to speak. "Agents," he scoffed, not even looking at me, but addressing the table like I was some abstract, foolish concept. "Still chasing that pipe dream, are we? How many rejections is it this time? 10? 20? My smile faltered. My cheeks started to burn. "Dad, please," I mumbled, looking down at my plate. The roast chicken suddenly looked very unappetizing. "No, I'm serious," he went on, his voice louder now. He put down his fork with a clatter. "Your mother and I, we worry. You're 24 years old. All your cousins," he gestured vaguely at Liam and Sarah, who were now staring at their plates, looking incredibly uncomfortable. "They have proper careers, proper plans. Liam's in IT, Sarah's studying to be a teacher. What are you doing? Wasting your time on fairy tales?" "David," Mom said, her voice quiet but firm, "that's enough." But Dad was on a roll. It was like a dam had burst. All those little jabs, all those unspoken disapprovals, they were all coming out now, in front of everyone. "Enough? It's not enough, Mary. She needs to hear this. Someone needs to tell her the truth. This writing thing isn't going to pay the bills. It's a hobby. A nice little hobby for a teenager, maybe, but you're an adult now. When are you going to grow up and face reality?" Tears pricked my eyes. I could feel them, hot and shameful. I blinked hard, trying to keep them back. The room was silent except for Dad's booming voice. I could feel everyone's eyes on me. Aunt Carol's pitying gaze, Uncle Ben's awkward discomfort, Liam and Sarah wishing they could disappear. "I am facing reality, Dad," I managed to choke out, my voice trembling. "This is what I want to do. It's important to me." "Important?" He actually laughed. A short, harsh, dismissive laugh. What's important is having a roof over your head, food on the table, not scribbling nonsense that nobody wants to read. You think being a writer is so special? You think you're better than people who do honest work? That cut deep. Because I didn't think that. I never thought that. I admired what he did. I just wanted him to see some value in what I did. That's not fair, I whispered, the tears finally winning. One slipped down my cheek, then another. I quickly wiped them away, mortified, crying in front of everyone, making a scene. Fair? He said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Life isn't fair, and it's not fair to your mother and me to have to keep worrying if you're ever going to stand on your own 2 feet. We've supported you, given you everything. When are you going to start contributing instead of just dreaming? The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Supported me. It made me sound like a leech, a freeloader. I was living at home, yes, to save money while I wrote and worked a part-time job at a bookstore that barely covered my own expenses. But I helped around the house. I wasn't a burden. Or at least, I hadn't thought I was. I couldn't look at anyone. The shame was a physical weight, pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. He had shamed me, deliberately, cruelly, in front of the people whose opinions mattered. He'd taken my dream, the most vulnerable part of me, and stomped on it. Mom stood up then. David, that is absolutely enough. Her voice was shaking with anger, something I rarely heard. You will apologize to your daughter, right now. Dad just scowled, folding his arms. I'm not apologizing for speaking the truth. The silence that followed was awful. Aunt Carol was trying to say something soothing, but her voice was drowned, out by the ringing in my ears. And then I did something. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. Not in the way Dad had been. I stood up slowly. My legs felt like jelly. I didn't look at Dad. I couldn't. I looked at Mom, and her eyes were filled with pain for me. I looked at Aunt Carol, who gave me a watery, sympathetic smile. Then, very quietly, I said, "Excuse me," and I walked out of the dining room. I didn't run. I didn't slam the door. I just walked straight up the stairs to my bedroom, the sound of my own footsteps echoing in the sudden stunned silence I left behind. I closed my bedroom door, not locking it, just clicking it shut. And then I sank onto my bed, and the tears came properly. Not just a few polite drops, but horrible, racking sobs that shook my whole body. I cried for what felt like an hour, cried for the humiliation, for the hurt, for the feeling that my own father saw me as a failure, a disappointment. Cried because he'd done it in front of everyone, stripping away any dignity I had. All the things I should have said, all the witty comebacks or angry retorts, they all swirled in my head now that it was too late. But in the moment, I'd been too stunned, too wounded. When the tears finally slowed down, I lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling hollowed out. The sounds from downstairs were muffled, a low murmur of voices, then the scraping of chairs, the clatter of dishes being cleared. They were trying to salvage the evening, to pretend it hadn't happened. But it had. And it had changed something. I thought about packing a bag. Just leaving, going to a friend's house, never speaking to him again. The anger was still there, a hot coal in my chest. But then, another thought started to creep in. Running away wouldn't solve anything. It would just prove him right, in a way. That I couldn't handle the truth. That I was childish. And that's when I knew what I had to do next. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about making him feel as bad as he'd made me feel. It was about me. About my self-respect. About not letting him define me or my worth. I waited. I heard Aunt Carol and Uncle Ben and my cousins leaving. Their voices were subdued as they said goodbye at the front door. Then I heard Mom and Dad talking in the kitchen, their voices low and tense. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was clear. Mom was upset. Dad was probably still defensive. After about another hour, the house went quiet. I figured Dad was probably in the living room, watching TV, stewing. Mom was likely in the kitchen, cleaning up, her silence a heavy blanket. I took a deep breath. I washed my face, my eyes still puffy and red. I looked at myself in the mirror. I looked like a mess, but there was a flicker of something else in my eyes, too. Determination, maybe. I wasn't going to let him break me. I went downstairs. Mom was indeed in the kitchen, wiping down the counters, her movements slow and weary. She looked up when I came in, her face etched with concern. "Oh, honey," she said softly, her voice full of sympathy. "Are you okay?" I nodded, though it wasn't entirely true. "Can we talk, Mom?" She dried her hands and sat down at the kitchen table. I sat opposite her. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart," she said, reaching across and taking my hand. "What your father did was inexcusable." "It really hurt, Mom," I said, my voice still a bit wobbly. "It's not just that he doesn't believe in me. It's that he had to say it like that, in front of everyone." "I know," she said, squeezing my hand. He's scared, I think. He doesn't understand it. And anything he doesn't understand, he fears. He grew up believing you get a trade, a secure job, a pension. This world of writing, of freelancing, it's alien to him. It doesn't make it right what he said or how he said it. Not at all. But it's where he's coming from. I appreciated her trying to explain, but it didn't lessen the sting. "He made me feel so small, Mom, so worthless." "You are not worthless," she said fiercely. "You are talented and passionate and brave for pursuing what you love. Don't you ever let him or anyone make you think otherwise." We talked for a little while longer. It felt good to have her on my side, to feel her unconditional support. It was like a balm on a raw wound. Then I said, "I need to talk to him." Mom looked surprised. "Tonight? Are you sure, honey? Maybe wait until tomorrow when things have calmed down." "No," I said, feeling a surprising certainty. "I need to do it now, while it's still fresh, while I'm still feeling it." I wasn't looking for a fight. I just needed to say my piece. For myself. She nodded slowly. "Okay, if you're sure." He's in the living room. I stood up, took another deep breath, and walked towards the living room. This was the what I did next that no one, probably not, even I would have predicted. Not shouting, not silent treatment, but this. Dad was sitting in his usual armchair, the TV on but muted. He was staring at the screen, but I don't think he was seeing it. He looked up as I entered, his expression, guarded, a little wary. Maybe he expected me to yell, to cry again. I didn't. I walked over and stood in front of him, not too close, not aggressively. Just there. "Dad," I said, my voice quiet but steady. It amazed me how calm I sounded when my insides were still churning. He grunted, a non-committal sound. He didn't look at me. "I need you to listen to me," I continued, "and I need you to really hear what I'm saying. Please, no interruptions." He finally turned his head and looked at me. His eyes were hard to read. Annoyed? Resigned? Maybe a tiny bit guilty? "What you said at dinner tonight," I began, "was incredibly hurtful. You didn't just criticize my choices, Dad. You humiliated me. You made me feel ashamed of who I am and what I love to do in front of our family." He started to open his mouth, probably to defend himself, but I held up a hand. "No, please. Let me finish." He closed it, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. I think he was taken aback by my calmness, my directness. I know you don't understand my writing, I went on. I know you worry about my future, about me being able to support myself. I get that. I really do. And I'm not asking you to suddenly love what I do, or even to fully understand it. I paused, gathering my thoughts. But I am asking you for respect. I am an adult. These are my choices. They might not be the choices you would make for me, but they are mine. And writing isn't just a hobby or fairy tales to me, Dad. It's my passion. It's work. It's hard work. I spend hours, days, weeks, months pouring my heart and soul into it. It means something to me. And it's not for you or anyone else to belittle that. I could see a muscle twitching in his jaw. He was listening. When you say things like you did tonight, I continued, my voice gaining a little more strength, it doesn't make me want to grow up and face reality. It makes me feel like you don't see me, like you don't value me unless I fit into this little box of what you think I should be. I took a shaky breath. This was the hardest part. I love you, Dad, but tonight you made me feel like your love is conditional on me being someone I'm not. And that's a terrible feeling for a daughter to have. Silence. The only sound was the quiet hum of the refrigerator from the kitchen. I'd said it. I'd laid my heart bare, not with anger, but with honesty. Dad just sat there, looking at me. His face was unreadable for a long moment. I braced myself for another outburst, for dismissal, for him to tell me I was being overly sensitive. Then, he sighed. A long, heavy sigh that seemed to come from deep within him. He scrubbed a hand over his face. When he looked at me again, some of the hardness was gone from his eyes. There was something else there. Tiredness. Maybe even a hint of regret. He started, then stopped. He cleared his throat. I never wanted to make you feel like I didn't love you, he said, his voice rough, much quieter than before. That's not it. He looked away, towards the blank TV screen. You're right, he said, so quietly I almost didn't hear him. I was out of line tonight. Way out of line. There's no excuse for saying those things, especially not like that in front of Carol and Ben. I just waited, letting him speak. It's just... He struggled for words. Your mom's right. I worry. I see you working so hard at this writing. And I don't see where it leads. I had my own dreams when I was young, you know. This was new. He never talked about his youth, his dreams. I wanted to be an architect, he said, a faint, wistful look on his face. Design grand buildings. But my father, your grandpa, he said it was foolish. No money in it, not practical. He pushed me into engineering, said it was sensible, secure, and he was right. It has been. But there's always been a little part of me that wondered, what if? My jaw almost dropped. I had no idea. My pragmatic, no-nonsense father had once dreamed of something artistic. I guess, he continued, looking back at me, his eyes holding a new kind of vulnerability I'd never seen before. I guess I see you chasing your dream, and I'm scared for you. Scared you'll face disappointment, struggle, get your heart broken. And maybe I'm a little bit jealous too, that you're brave enough to try. The anger I'd felt, the deep hurt, it didn't vanish completely, but something inside me softened. To hear him admit his fears, his own unfulfilled dreams, it reframed everything. It didn't excuse his words, but it helped me understand the man behind them a little better. And I push you, he said, his voice full of self-reproach, because I think if I push you hard enough, you'll choose the sensible path, and then you'll be safe. You won't have to face what I was too scared to face. He shook his head. It's stupid, and it's not fair to you. Tears were welling in my eyes again, but this time they were different. Not tears of shame, but tears of understanding, relief. Dad, I said, my voice thick with emotion. I appreciate you telling me that. It means a lot. He looked at me, really looked at me. I am sorry, he said, and this time it sounded completely genuine. For what I said tonight, for how I said it, for making you feel small. That was wrong of me. A weight I hadn't even fully realized I was carrying lifted from my shoulders. It wasn't a magic fix. Our relationship wouldn't transform overnight. But it was a start. A huge start. Thank you, I whispered. I accept your apology. He nodded, then gave a small, tired smile. So, this novel, he said, a new, hesitant interest in his voice. What's it about? And just like that, the dam hadn't just burst with anger earlier. Now, a different kind of dam had broken, one that let in a trickle of understanding. I didn't go into a full synopsis right then and there. It wasn't the time. But I told him a little bit. And he listened. Really listened. He asked a couple of questions. Simple ones, but they were genuine. We didn't talk for much longer that night. We were both emotionally exhausted. But as I went back upstairs to my room, I didn't feel hollowed out anymore. I felt lighter. I felt like I'd stood up for myself, not by shouting or running away, but by speaking my truth, calmly and honestly. And in doing so, I'd not only earned his respect, but I'd also opened a door for him to show me a side of himself I'd never known existed. So, Dad shamed me in front of everyone. And what I did next? I didn't let it break me. I confronted him, not with anger, but with my truth. And in a way I never would have believed possible, it led to him sharing a piece of his. Things aren't perfect. He still makes the occasional sensible job comment, but it's different now. There's less bite, more of a hesitant, almost sheepish tone. And sometimes he'll actually ask, "So, how's the writing going?" And he'll listen, really listen when I tell him. It turns out, the most unbelievable thing I did wasn't some grand act of defiance. It was choosing to be vulnerable, to be honest, and to seek understanding instead of just conflict. And that, I think, made all the difference. I still have that manuscript, by the way. It got a few more rejections, but I also got a request for a full read from an agent just last week. And when I told Dad, he didn't scoff. He said, "Well, that sounds promising. Keep at it." And for the first time, I truly believed he meant it.